in pranayama. So pranayama is our breath work. You can either choose to do pranayama seated or you could lie, your choice. This is 5 minutes, 5 minutes of breath work. After that, then we will actually lie down, because it will be in the lying position. I'm going to do a class that I've called Unlock Your Back, Your Neck and Your Shoulders. So it's pretty stretchy based. So all the poses will centre around pretty much this top half of the body in order to release and unlock it all. I think I chose that very well because my neck is really sore today. So maybe I went out in sympathy with writing the class. So you will need something like a block or a bolster, because we will actually do this back extension over these guys. Okay, so you'll need some kind of propping, be it towel or blocks. When you are ready for pranayama, if you're sitting whatever way feels comfortable for you, I don't mind if it's legs out in front or slightly butterfly into that position, won't matter as long as you feel comfortable, or if you want to lie down, you're welcome to lie down too. When we start pranayama, it's a slow breath. The breath is intentionally brought in and out through the nose. So ideally, we use that technique. As we start getting into colder months, perhaps the noses get congested. This may not always be possible. So if it feels either one, not possible, or too uncomfortable, then we just choose to bring the mouth through the nose, the breath through the mouth. We bring the breath through the nose because that slows it down. So see how you go, and taking each of the breaths just a little slower now, sensing how the breath comes equally through the two nostrils. Imagine that you're trying to fill up the lungs from the very base all the way up to the top here. Now don't rush the exhalations. See if you can slowly let that breath out release very gradually. If you imagine that your lungs are like, say, a glass that you're trying to fill, and you want to slowly fill from the bottom of the glass all the way up to the top, not rushing it, not forcing the breath either. So you're going to notice that when we sit at the end of each of the breaths, be it your inhalation or your exhalation, that there's still this sort of nice softness that sits around your neck and your throat. You don't feel as though you've created any tension or any force with your breathing. Maybe we can even sense not only is there just this slowness attached to each of the breaths, imagine that you can make the breath just a little smoother, sort of not jerky. It's really like a softness to the breath. And if you send your attention to the exhalation from me now, imagine that your lungs are like two sponges that you want to try and wring out. You're trying to really let go of all of the breath. I'm quite mindful that we don't let any breath sort of linger or, shall we say, reside in the bottom or the lower lobes of your lungs. So this is what we would then start to call a complete breath, where there's this full inhalation, that we're not sort of doing short, shallow breaths. We've got this full breath consuming all of the lungs. And that full exhalation, emptying the lungs, wringing them out, but not forcing. So we don't want to create any stress or strain to the body, just as a means of trying to get a full inhale and a complete exhale. this breath, you might notice how your inhalation and your exhalation are the same length now. Sense how the breath just comes with ease. Just starts to pick up on a little bit of a rhythm. It becomes quite effortless. The length's still there, but it just comes one after the other without having to now make any adjustments to it. Ideal world, we get to keep this rhythm to the breath as we progress into class. And I'll always give us a little check-in every now and again. Remind you to check in on your breathing. Stay with this fluidity of the breath, but just invite some movement in by moving through perhaps your hands and your feet or your toes. If you're sitting like me, we will lie down onto the floor. If you're already on the floor, stay there for me. We'll come down onto the mat. You'll lengthen your legs so that they're long, so you'll consume all of your mat for me here. So this is supposed to be called banana arms simply because it sends the body into a banana-like shape, like a crescent kind of shape. Take both of your legs and walk them around to the left-hand side. Now they might go off the mat and that's okay. The same will happen to the upper body, head and shoulders. They do this little wriggle. Your head around towards the left for me here. You might already start to feel how there's some kind of stretch that's radiating down the right-hand side. If you take your arms overhead and collect the tips of your elbows with your hands, so you hold on to the tips of your elbows. Grab firmer onto the tip of the right elbow and start to pull that right arm closer into the side of the ear and bringing yourself more into this lateral or side flexion. Roll your right hip back down towards the floor. You can sometimes sense how the body tries to roll off the mat here and that there might be more contact on your left glute than there is on your right. Check out that you've got equal weight on both. Press through your right heel by pulling your toes back and pushing your heel as far away from you as you can. Then you get to breathe into this right side of your body. So imagine you can breathe into your right rib cage down towards your obliques, your side waist muscles. Feel that stretch as we open up through the side body. So we start off in this lateral flexion primarily because a lot of back conditions can stem from this mid part of the spine, which we call the thoracic spine. So we usually find that most people are either pelvic driven or they're thoracic driven. So if we can try and release this thoracic, often it can make huge differences in things like our lower backs, our necks, our shoulders. So when we ease off here, we start to wriggle or release these legs to come back into the center. Head and shoulders will do the same again. Start to walk your legs over to your right hand side. Do the same with the upper body. It heads towards the right head and shoulders. They can take that little maneuver over to the right. Go as far to the right as you can, as feels comfortable for you. Remember the stretch now flips over to the other side, so you should feel this down your left side. Anchor the left hip down to the floor or connect to that left glute onto your mat. Press through your left heel. Pull your left arm tighter into the side of the head. Send your breath over there to the left side now. So really trying to open up. So what this does is it starts to open up through the side rib cage and mostly the thoracic, and there's little tiny muscles that sit between each of the ribs, which we call the intercostal muscles. And what happens is during the day, lots of compression as we get sort of work through gravity, these ribs start to collapse down on each other. They tighten up these little intercostal muscles, and that can then affect our whole trunk's movement. And that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to unwind and unlock it all. Well, when you're done, let go of those arms. They can come back to by your sides. Legs are walking, trunk gets to walk in. And if this isn't comfy with your legs, so for example, it's causing you any discomfort in your lower back, just slide your legs in, bring your knees to knock. You don't have to have your legs long any further. But again, keep them long if they're okay. take your head and rotate it to look over your left shoulder. So just turn your head, let it go as far as feels comfortable. So you should feel a little bit of a pull running down the right side of the neck. As you do that, take your right hand and reach it down towards your right heel. So really try to depress this right shoulder away from your right ear. So there's this rotation of the neck, and there's also this what we call depression of the shoulder, the pulling down of the shoulder. This also stretches across your traps, okay, across the trapezius, the muscles that come down from the back of your neck, across your shoulder. These guys tend to hold a lot of tension, traps. These are the things that tend to get tight, and then this is why your shoulders often seem to look like they're up near your ears. Alright, relax that right arm and gently roll the head back to the center. Continue to take this roll off to your right. So now for the stretch heads down your left side, left hand reaches down to your feet. Again, depressing this left shoulder away from the left ear. Soften up that left shoulder in order to roll the head slowly back into the center. If you have got long legs, I'm going to suggest just bending the legs. They don't have to be anything fancy, but I probably would suggest that the knees come together. Just, I always call these muff knees. Just let your knees sit and touch here. This is just nice on your lower back. Bring your hands behind the back of your head, like you're going to do, say, a chest lift, like a sit-up kind of thing. This is really just to get our chin to our chest. So you can lift your head up off the floor and then just drop your chin deep in towards your chest. Okay, use your hands that are here behind the back of the skull to start to pull on the skull or the scalp, so that you're actually sort of feeling your hands run along your hairline up towards the crown of your head. So this is just pulling along the scalp, and it's opening up the upper thoracic of the back of the neck. So keep this chin to the chest action. Very slowly lower the head back down towards the floor, keep chin to chest. What that does is it still creates this length behind the back of the neck. It stops the chin pointing up to the roof, so it's stretching the back of the neck, or these, we call them the rectus spinae muscles. There's a lot of muscles that run down here, but these muscles sort of run down the channel of the spine here. Take both the arms and ready upwards towards the ceiling. These can still stay as they are. You're getting a free lesson today, free anatomical lesson, so you're going to learn a little bit about anatomical movements. Today we do what we call protraction and retraction. This is what happens to the scapula, the shoulder blades. So you want to reach it up towards the ceiling and feel as though you can pull your shoulder blades out from underneath you. You can even do a little wriggle side to side here, like left to right, and keep pulling the shoulder blades out from underneath. When you feel like you've got this absolute expansion there across the back of the shoulder blades, then hang in there. So this is called protraction, taking the shoulder blades away from each other. It's the same kind of movement that you'd create if you were doing, say, eagle arms. Same expansion that comes to the chest. You'll get it again a little bit later on when we do cat-cow. Okay, so when we go and do cat pose, it's the same idea. Okay. So protraction, retraction, drawing the shoulder blades back into the mat. Okay. So now what happens is that the shoulder blades should draw and somewhat pull together. Okay. So shoulder blades now go into a working mode. Okay. They'll stretch as you go back into reaching those arms up towards the roof and feeling there's width when you're ready right across the back of the shoulder blades, getting space there. Okay. And then breathe out, drop the shoulder blades back into the floor, almost like you're trying to really imprint the shoulder blades back into the mat. Okay, now they're working. Inhale, raise up those arms, separate the shoulder blades, breathe into the back of the rib cage. Okay, that's where we're trying to stretch. Good. Exhale, draw shoulder blades back down into the mat, contract the muscles. Just take two more. Inhale to open up, so rise up with those arms. Separate the shoulder blades, create width. Exhale, drop back down into the mat. So not only do we have to unlock the back muscles or stretch them, but they also have to be worked, because often why backs aren't always that happy is they're actually weak. And they just don't have the strength to hold us up. And then exhale, draw the shoulder blades back down into the mat. Keep the arms up, but grab hold of the left wrist with your right hand. Take the take the left arm with you across the body line. Keep pulling on the wrist and feel as though you can pull more of that left shoulder blade away from the floor. Drop the left shoulder away from your ear. Remember we talked about elevation of the shoulders, like elevation and depression. Okay, depress. Drop the shoulder away from the ear. Keep pulling it down. In other words, often we'll cue this one. Pull your armpits to your hips. Pull that armpit down. Now keep pulling this arm across your body line. Keep pulling the shoulder blade out from underneath you. There's 2 phases to this one, which is very similar to thread the needle. You're pulling the left arm across your body. Okay, hold it exactly where it is. Don't let it move. But now try and pull your left shoulder back towards the floor. Okay, so there's this 2 pull action. The hand's being pulled in one direction. The shoulders resisting it and pulling back the other way. Shoulders down away from the ear as you stay in here. Breathe into the back of that shoulder blade. Good, ease off. Shoulder blade returns back to the floor. Arms go up, left hand holds right wrist. Start it off right. Right shoulder blade pulls away from the ear, or right shoulder pulls down. Come across towards your left now. Pull on the wrist. Resist it, pull back away from it. Pull your right shoulder away from the right wrist. Keep pulling your right armpit down towards your waist. Breathe into the back of this right side rib cage, back the right shoulder blade. Ease back off. Take both arms upwards towards the ceiling. Cross your left arm in front of your arm like a big X. Okay, see if you can twist one more time. Don't stress if you can't, but this is those eagle arms that I mentioned before. You don't feel a lot in the back when your arms are down near your trunk, but if you start to lift your elbows up high, okay, so you're going to probably sort of see them slightly higher than your shoulders. The hands then reach upwards towards the center. Try and keep this twist if you can, because that's where the stretch will start to come. And then, again, ideally drawing shoulder blades out away from your back. Almost like you can get space between the shoulder blades and the spine. And whenever we have an open part of the body or a stretched part of the body, we usually try to send the breath there. So rather than trying to send the breath into the front of my rib cage, I'm trying to send the breath into the back of my rib cage, because that's getting stretched here. Good. Ease the arms back down, soften, release, unwrap, right round left. If you can give me the second one, go for it. If you can't, don't worry. Maybe, I know some people even just hold on to their thumb if they can access their thumb, so the right thumb. Remember to elevate the arms. It's the only way you'll be able to separate the shoulder blades. So elevation of these arms, elevate the scapula, the shoulder blades. Good. Keep pressing into those arms. Keep reaching the hands upwards towards the ceiling. Consciously draw those shoulder blades out from underneath your back. Create space and breathe there, right in the middle of the back. Ease the arms slowly back down to your chest. Once again, unwrap the arms, bring the arms back down by your sides. Send the feet hip distance apart for me now. They may not have been now. Just make sure that your knees aren't knocked together, or that your legs are so wide apart that they're down by the side of the mat here. As the arms sit down by your spine, we're going to come up into some curls, some pelvic curls. You'll tilt the pelvis back into the mat to lift your tailbone off the mat first. Okay, once the tailbone lifts, then start to continue to peel the rest of the spine off the floor slowly. Okay, this will start to elevate the hips. You'll start to come up into that high bridge-like position. You'll stay there and breathe in. Spine comes down gradually, one vertebrae at a time. Send each vertebrae back into the mat. Don't rush down, and don't forget about that lower back. You've got to keep your tailbone up high for as long as you can, so you can imprint your lumbar into the mat. That's giving it the stretch that it needs. And then you rock back over and you find that natural little curve in the lower back. Okay, so you always keep the curve in the lower back, natural inward curve. You'll go again and you flatten your back into the floor. This is to stretch the lumbar muscles. Then you press through the feet and then you peel slowly. If you lift in one solid line, all this becomes as a glute workout, and it's great if that's what you want it to be. But we're working here, releasing through the spine and unlocking the back. Inhale, when you get to the top, exhale as you come down slowly. So we want to lengthen the muscles. We're also strengthening them. Don't forget that lumbar. Okay. It really feels like you can imprint that lower back into the floor. Take your time, use your core. Rock back through front neutral. You're trying 2 more for me. Exhale brings you up. Tilt the pelvis back. That stretches all the ligaments in the lower part of the back. This is very similar to cat and cow. It's in the lying capacity. You might notice the more of them that you do, the more range you start to get, so the back starts to limber up a little. Stretch it slowly down. There's no rush. I'm going to try and maybe even synchronize the breath and the movement. I'll take one more. Tilt back. Instigate the lift. You want to almost imagine that the spine is like a string of pearls. Okay, this is how often I use the cues when I teach Pilates. I say imagine that your spine is a string of pearls and you're lifting it off the table, and each tiny pearl comes off the table one at a time. It doesn't come up in one big thread. Now on the very next one, once you've returned back down to the floor, if you feel comfortable going into bridge, that's the held version of this, you're most welcome to. Bridge is more of a working pose once we get up there. Because what will happen is that once we get up, you'll wriggle the arms underneath the back of your body. You'll do this little shuffle so you can sneak the shoulder blades underneath you. Sort of tuck them right underneath you so that your arms are parallel to the sides of the mat. You want to press down through those arms, press down through your feet. And this opens the front line of the body. So your back's working now. Okay, shoulder blades squeezing together means back working. Stretch your knees as though they're trying to clear your ankles. In other words, stretch the thighs away from you, stretch the front line of the body. Now, of course, you're sitting here for a while, what can happen? The breasts can get a little short and shallow. You want to make sure that you've got that same length to each breath that you had when you started the class. And if that changes, you either work it very correctly, or if that means that you've fatigued from the pose, then you come back down slowly. But remember, it's not a competition how long you get to stay up there. It's not about how hard you have to work. It's not about how much the legs are shaking or your glutes are contracting. You want to still feel as though that you can breathe quality breaths, and that you haven't moved from working, which we are, to forcing or to straining, because they're two very different things. Within the next 2 or 3 breaths, take the opportunity to release and come back out, but don't rush out. Imprint the spine slowly. As you rock back through, when you do find that your pelvis is back into neutral, take the knees just to float to the left. And then bring them back through to the centre and let them float to the right. Okay, we're just trying to subtly release the lower part of the back here. As we take one more each way, one more left and right. It's then after you've been to the right hand side and the knees come back to centre that you can draw the knees into your chest one at a time, pull them in. Hug the tops of the thighs and down into your belly, hold on to the shins and really compress the thighs into your tummy. Feel it release and lengthen the lower part of the back. And as we release the whole of the shins, lift the legs to open and then sneak the arms underneath the backs of them, hook them underneath the backs of your thighs, pulling a little deeper for me now. Slowly release the legs back down onto the mat for me here, and roll so that you lie on your left side, stacked with your knees one on top of the other. So we call this open and close the book. It's just a thoracic rotation. If you need this arm underneath your head to rest on, you're welcome to. If you don't, or you want to use, say, your block for your head to rest on, you can do that too. You just don't want your head to feel like it's hanging out there in limbo. The arms start here on top, say on top of each other, so you can see your palms touching, like you're clapping. There's one definite cue in this, and this is that your knees do not move. Okay. What they might want to do is that your top knee might want to pull back, so therefore your right knee might want to pull back behind your left. Okay, your job is to try and keep these two knees stacked. This means that you've kept your pelvis in neutral and you're actually rotating from your ribs, from your thoracic. So take a breath in, let the top arm, so your right arm lift off. If you feel like you want to follow it, you're welcome to with your gaze, but remember your knees are not allowed to leave each other, so you do not want one knee to slide off the other. Doesn't matter how far out this arm gets, not important. As you breathe out, you close the book back down. The arm rotates back down to the floor. So the hand does not need to get to the floor. I know your brain thinks it needs to, but we don't need to. Reach out, up and over. It's an inhale to open. And again, if you want to rotate the neck just because it feels nice or it feels comfortable, then you're welcome to. And then exhale as you close back down. You're going to feel a few things going on here. So we're going to be rotating the spine. So there's this twisty thing happening. Spines on backs love rotation. They respond very nicely to them. Helps them to unwind and to unlock. Hence why we're doing it. But you might also feel your chest get a lovely stretch as this arm floats out to the side. That's another little added bonus. Breathe out as you close your book down. Breathe in as you open the book back up. So always keep checking in on those legs because they love cheating. We're going to try one more. And on this very next one, if it feels comfy to hang out there with the opening, then do. If not, then keep moving through it as in that active version. I'll cue us to come back. But keep the breath nice and fluid. Remember, we're trying to breathe into the most open part of the body to obviously assist in it releasing. Hence, you're going to start to feel this in this top right ribs and chest. So imagine you can breathe quite fully into, even if it is just that right lung. What you might start to feel is that as you hang in there and you don't move the knees, and you can recorrect them anytime, bring them back on top, that this arm starts to give, or the pec, the chest muscles, starts to soften, back starts to unwind more. And maybe this arm might even feel as though it's getting close towards the floor, or it's sort of dropping a little bit more as we really work at stretching across the front line of the body and rotating into those back muscles. Let's take 2 more full breaths into this top right rib. Long exhales to unwind. Breathe in to close the book back over. Take your time as you roll off to the other side, and we'll do the same active version. Keep those knees together. hence hip stacked. Left arm on right. Left arm opens on the inhale, do the same as you did first side. And again, if you don't want to follow it with your hip, you don't have to. Always close down on an exhale. Let's close as we shorten and come back down. The next one that we take, if you're happy to hang in there and hold it out there, feel free to otherwise keep the active version. This time sending the breath into the left rib cage. And feeling everything unwind as you breathe it out. Taking 2 more breaths here. Exhale as we close when you come to an exhale, closing that book down. Take a moment as you roll up into sitting. When you come up, just take your time. You've got a couple of options for me here. This is back extension. If you only have blocks, use your blocks, or blocks and say a towel, or if you've got like say your jacket, just because if you've got blocks like mine, they're pretty rough. If you've got a bolster, go for it, use a bolster. We want this roundedness for the very reason that, for example, if I use my bolster, to go into thoracic extension. So you're going to think fish, camel. So we're trying to do this. We're trying to roll over the bolster. This is to send the back into extension. So you're thinking, can I create this kind of structure? If, like, my head's okay, it's like, I could probably say it might be a little bit nicer if I put something a little bit more underneath it. Like, it might feel just a little bit nicer. So if you're in that kind of position where you're like this, and it's like, well, my head's going to fall off my shoulders here, you don't want that. So what do you need to do just to maybe soften that a little? If there is anything, even it could be rolling your mat up, say 2 or 3 times so your head just rests onto something slightly higher than the thin little 6 mil of a mat. But what you're thinking here is that can I create this curve in my spine? Okay, this thoracic curve. For me, I have to put my feet on the floor because if I don't, it's going to jam up my lower back and it won't like it. But if it doesn't cause you any grief, knock yourself out and have long legs. The other thing that can be nice here is wide arms, so like those open closed book arms, because not only are you getting this extension into your spine and the openness of your spine through the front of your body, so the back of your body's closing down, but the front of your body's opening up. You get this really awesome stretch through your chest as well. If that's not enough, you can go. The chest, you can go into goalpost arms if you want more pec stretch. But allow that breath now to equally filter into both of the lungs here. So big full inhale into the front ribs. And then just letting yourself sort of drop into your prop on the exhale. So we try to unwind the spine this way because it's so used to going in the other direction all the time. So daily practice, always, head tilts forward, always looking at a phone, a device, and therefore the thoracic always goes into flexion. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is try and send it the other way. Try and open up the front vertebrae that don't ever get opened up. They always are just smashed down on top of each other. So this then helps us to create much more mobility in the spine. And obviously you can feel it, it just opens your chest, so it makes you feel so you can actually breathe properly. And you're really just taking another 3 rounds of breath here. I'm trying to make them nice big full breaths, and you really feel the lungs like those glasses being filled to the top. Couple of options of getting out of this, and this is all going to depend on how the neck feels with it. You could either roll over to your side and push up, or you could bring your upper arms. So if you're on a bolster like me, I can press my upper arms into that bolster, so like I'm going to just wedge my way up and curl up like I'm going to do a chest lift. Or you can roll over to your side. Again, you just don't want to cause yourself any grief into the neck. Get rid of the bolster, let's recreate that so our brain knows what it should look like. Try to do it freestyle, and that's called fish pose. We go back to long legs, and then we roll just like we did in bridge. Roll one arm, so if you roll to your right, you're going to sneak your left arm underneath the back of your body. And then when you roll over to your left, you roll on that left arm, but then you get to sneak your right arm underneath your body. So then you're going to start to feel how you're literally sitting on your forearms, you're sitting on both your arms. It's just like bridge really. Okay, the arms are tucked underneath the back of the body. So this means your spine, your back, your thoracic is having to work. But when you press into your forearms, you use it to lift you, like you and your head, off the floor. Tilt your head back. Slowly lower the crown of the head down to the floor. Okay, so you've got this curve in the back. Think, what did I look like when I was arching over the bolster or my blocks? You've just created it now by pressing through your forearms, so use your arms. So that you don't have to use too much of your back. If you want to work the core, then draw the inner legs together and draw the navel towards the spine. So you can start to engage a little bit of deep transverse. So you should feel a little bit easier than if you were to do it first up without the assistance of having the prop. Easy to come out, press back through those forearms, let the head lift up, lengthen the spine again, drop chin to chest. Then ease yourself gradually back down to the floor. Slide those feet in, lift your bum up, get those hands out from underneath you and draw your knees into your chest. Get back into that lower spine, maybe give yourself a bit of a rock here. And as these knees stay tight here in towards the chest as we stop the rock, release both knees down to your left hand side. Try keeping them real tight to your belly. Okay, so that's why I call this a deep twist. So you want to feel them like really snug into your tummy. If your knees can't go to the floor without keeping your right shoulder on the floor, get your block and wedge your block underneath your knees so that you can at least keep your right shoulder onto the floor. So that's sort of crucial in this. Otherwise, there is no twist. You just basically went with the rotation. Okay. Right shoulder rolls back into the floor. Left hand, if you can, weights the top right knee down. Keep trying to roll a few more of the ribs on this right hand side down into the mat more without your knees sliding off each other. Okay, so that's where the intensity comes. Knees stay glued together. One doesn't try and pull back from the other, but you try and keep rolling the ribs onto the floor, deepening and deepening this twist. And then just back off it a little, so let the shoulders soften and the hands soften. Release any grip that you've got on that top leg when you're ready to roll the legs back in and through. Come to take the deep twist. So again, if you need to recorrect those knees into your belly and keep them in super tight, go for it. Same deal. If the knees don't go to the floor without this left shoulder popping off, then support that underside right knee. Put it up a little higher. And once we've got these knees stacked onto each other, keep them glued down there. Don't let them slide away from each other as you attempt to maybe relay one more of those ribs towards your mat here. Release the resistance. Let go of that top leg, roll the knees back into the center, return the knees to your belly. As the knees stay tucked in to the chest, we're going to use that as a means of rocking up to sit. If not, you're going to roll over to your side. When we come up to sit though, come around onto all fours so that your hands come underneath your shoulders. Your knees get to stack here underneath your hips as we prep for cat-cow. This is a cat stretch, comes on your exhale, so you want to think chin, chest. We've done a bit of that tonight. You want to round your back up towards the ceiling. This is what we call that protraction. And we tuck the tail under so that we stretch the lumbar, the lower part of the back. Roll on the inhale the other way. Don't bend your arms, so your arms and your legs don't move. This sort of curling action is simply done all through the spine. So you want to curl, chin to chest, don't move the arms, suck your belly up and in. Round your back, feel like you can get separation between the shoulder blades from one side to the other. Flip it the other way on the inhale, don't rush through. Don't drop into the shoulders, so don't collapse, don't go into that retraction. Chin up the tail. Good, keep going, exhale, chin to chest. Keep pulling your back towards the ceiling, keep sucking your belly in because that curls the spine and then the tail will tuck under to give you length into the lower back. Ease it out through slowly. Chin up, tail. Good, 2 more. So often I see with cat-cow, I can get the reason why. A lot of people try and bend the arms. But the arms and the legs are perfectly still. It's actually a movement about the spine, the back, and how we can round it, how we can flex it, which is what we're doing in cat, and how we can extend it, which is what we do in cow. When you've done that very last cow pose, turn the tail up, set the back into a flat back, or what we're going to call a neutral back, so we're not flexed or extended. Check in that you haven't dropped into these shoulders. Okay. You want to imagine that you can draw your armpits away from the floor, so there's just a little bit more, say, protraction in those shoulders. Okay. Nice wide back. Take your look around towards your left hip. So it's like your left rib cage is shortening, getting super close to your left hip, and then center on the inhale. Don't worry about those arms bending, they can stay straight. Exhale, look around to your other hip. So right looks around to right, and then inhale, come back. You'll do a few of them. Exhale as you go around to the left-hand side. This side shortens, the other side stretches and lengthens. Okay, so we're now trying to open up the side of the vertebrae. Inhale. So this class is really about what we can, what we're doing with the spine to try and unlock it and unjam it. So there's a little bit more freedom, a little bit more movement. Movement's a little bit more with ease rather than like it's so clunky. Let our last one be around to that right hand side. Come back to center on the inhale. Good. Take your right arm, open it up towards the ceiling. This is a little bit like that open the closed book. We call it thread the needle, so this should feel heaps easier than it would normally. Exhale, thread it, that right arm underneath your left arm. You're going to go into the moving version. So inhale, open it back up. Exhale, come tuck it through. So you can see we're now rotating, we're going twisting. Good, open on the inhale. Thread under exhale. See how far, without force though, that you can actually spread that arm through. Can you really sort of feel that pull the shoulder blade out from underneath the spine, so getting this width across the right shoulder blade. Good, inhale, open. Good, exhale, thread. Good, and you're going to hang out there for the last one for me when you get there. The palm's going to face down if you can, and it's planting itself on the floor. So the floor gives you a mechanism to stick the hand to. So imagine that the hand now is literally glued, this right hand is glued to the floorboards, and then you're going to try and pull your right shoulder back towards the right edge of your mat. Okay, so in other words, your shoulder's pulling away from your hand, but the hand is not sliding, it's not going anywhere. And you should feel that it's a little bit deeper across the shoulder bone. And you might lose a little bit of it as you lower your head and your shoulders, but if you want to go there, you're welcome to pop your head onto the floor, or a block if it doesn't want to go onto the floor. The left arm then can open up towards the ceiling, get you a little bit of pec stretch, and then bend the elbow and wrap the arm around your back. Imagine you can pull this left shoulder back a little bit more, get some more space across the pecs. Release the left arm back up. Then it goes back to the floor. Take it easy. Press through the left hand, glide the right hand out, return it back underneath your right shoulder. Prepare on the inhale, left arm goes and opens up again. Okay, so you're threading the other side. Thread the left under the right, reach it all the way across. Good. And then open on the inhale. And you get to thread on the exhale. And inhale, open. And then exhale, thread. Find that, let's one planting the palm down. If you can, don't worry if you can't, it just depends on the ranges of some shoulders don't always like this. So do what you can to get the palm towards the floor. If not, know that you've got to try and keep the hand still as you pull the shoulder away from it. Consciously activate the back of the shoulder. Again, that might be where you want to breathe. Lower the head and the shoulder if it feels comfy to the floor. Open the right arm up. Send it around behind your back. See if you can draw that right shoulder back a little bit more. And a little bit more space across the pecs. And release the right arm back up. Pop the right hand onto the floor. Get ready to push up. Come back onto all fours. Slide your way back into your heels for me here. If you can come into child's pose, press the palms of the hands down into your mat. Not only do they get to press down, you've got active arms, so don't collapse your arms. Keep them nice and straight for me. Push the mat away from you. Okay, so you're pushing your hands like you're trying to push them to the front edge of your mat towards me. And feel how it sits you back into your hips a little bit more. So you get bum and heels a little closer together, but it gets to stretch the lumbar, the lower back more. You're going to keep that, but walk your hands around towards the right. See if you can keep yourself attached to your heels. Try not to leave your heels, particularly the left heel. You can see how easy it is to let your left glute sort of rise up off your left heel. Okay, so we've got a couple of sort of different actions that we're going to take here. First of all, take your left hand and see if you can creep the fingers a little further forward on this diagonal line. Start to feel how much stronger it is down this left side body. So it should be a little bit stronger than that banana pose we started with. So a couple of things are going to happen. Keep gluing your bum towards your heels. This left hand, it sticks to the floor, but you try and pull it back towards you. Your right hand, you push it away from you. So you can see what's happening. This is pushing and this pulling. Left hand pulls towards you. Right hand pushes away from you. Sit back deep into your left heel. Breathe into your left side. You're going to hang in there for me for just a couple more breaths. But rather than imagining that your left armpit is rolling down to your mat, keep your push-pull thing happening. But can you imagine that your left armpit's trying to open up to the ceiling a little bit more? So that it's opening up rather than closing down. And just soften. So turn that left armpit a little bit more down to the floor. Should ease off. Walk back through to the centre. Take a walk to your left. Right bum, right heel. Therefore the stretch is over on our right hand side. Creep the fingers on this right hand as far forward as you can. Okay, remember the push-pull, so the right hand pulls towards you. The left hand pushes away from you. The right armpit opens up towards the ceiling a little bit more as opposed to rolling down. Keep your push and your pull. And you're breathing into that right rib. Turn that right armpit to point more towards the floor. Take a walk back into the centre. Come up onto the hands and knees. You're going to think that you're going to go into like a tricep push-up. You're going to lower down towards the floor, continue forming forward into cobra. There's a little bit of back work for us here as we find ourselves into cobra. See if you can let the hands lift off the floor and keep that back extension. Okay, so we're getting some work into the back here. You can breathe out, soften the hands down to the floor, lower the chest down. Now, if you're too far up your mat like I am, you can wriggle down a little. We're going to take ourselves into a pec stretch and twist the spine. If you take your right arm out to the side for me, like you did say for that thread the needle, it's a full extension of your shoulder, palm faces down. Bend your left knee for me. And you're going to try and kick your heel into your bum. Your left hand's at the side of your ribs. It's your pushing tool. So you're going to push into your left hand. You're going to roll over onto your right arm and your left leg's going to flow with you so you go into that twist. Don't worry if you can't get this left foot on the floor. Take it in a little closer. It's more about how can I roll over onto this right arm to get the stretch into the pecs. Okay, and how much can I twist into the spine here. Try and open up the spine. Now, for some people that's awesome, there's heaps of stretch. For others it's not enough. And if it's not enough, then what you might do is slowly walk the right hand up on an angle. So if you think of a clock face, this right hand starts to walk, say, up to, say number 2. Probably number 1 might be too high, but you want to keep rolling over into this right arm. We come out of it, we just get, if you've done an elevation of this arm, do me a favour and bring it back like it faces the number 3 on that clock face, otherwise you're going to take it out of its socket a little bit too much, you won't be happy. Roll back over onto your belly, switch it to the other side, left goes out, right hand comes in, bend your right knee, roll on over. Do the same if you want to change that arm structure. You know what, it's not strong enough on this arm, I need to feel a little bit more. Then it starts to walk up, say, to the number 10 on the clock face. If you've elevated the arm, walk it back in for me just for safety. Come back over, take it easy. Same way you went over, same way as you come back. Then slide the 2 hands in, take a quick lift up. Back to child's. Press your hands into the mat, push them forward, sit yourself back into your heels. If you don't want to work the arms any longer, you don't have to, you can keep them bent. The next breath in, slide the hands in, let the chest come lift up nice and slowly from here. You're ready to head over into relax for me now, so send your way back onto the mat, lengthwise. all the way back down. Kelly, if those lights are annoying you, you can switch that off. If you think you're going to be a little cool, right where that black one is, Kelly, in between the black, in the PowerPoint, you'll see. Yeah, awesome. If you think you might get cold here, warm socks will stop the distraction of the mind telling you you're cold. We have 5 minutes just to restore and to rest here. For some people, their legs will be long, draped over their bolster. For others, they might just have their knees bent with the knees knocked. You don't want to feel load in your lower back here. Head softly rests onto the mat, the arms run parallel to the sides. We get to recalibrate here. So it's in rest. Come back and we reconnect in with the breathing. We slow the breath back down again. And we get to exhale and let go of any last residual tension. Full breath in, full breath coming out. And then go any last tension, feeling the body soften. As we hear the sound of the meditation ball ring, we're able to bring our awareness back. It's a cue to bring some movement back in into the body by maybe wriggling the fingers, moving the toes, and then just taking yourself to roll over onto one side. Just staying here for a moment. And as you gently push your way up into sitting, we get to meet with our hands at the heart center. This is where we get to close and finish class. It's our opportunity to show our gratitude for the practice. We get to finish together with Namaste. Namaste. Happy Monday. Hopefully that puts you in a great position for the rest of the week.